Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talk of the Town podcast. If you have not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. So we're on the road to 100 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. If you love daily uploads, special segments, updated rankings every single week, sports betting, sports news, my reactions, anything at all, it's all right here on the Talk of the Town podcast. So I promise you, your subscription will be well worth it. And let's get into today's video. We're going to go over a few things today, just kind of things to catch up on that we haven't really got to talk about this week. We're going to talk about the Seahawks and Cardinals Thursday night game. We're going to talk about Kansas City a little bit in their future and just some other topics. A couple of teams that can they really make the playoffs, some kind of sleeper teams that were not expected to be kind of as good as they are to start off the season. So we'll get into that a little later into the video. And let's start off with Kansas City, actually, speaking of them. I think Kansas City, are they really in trouble or are they not in trouble, or is it just a slow start? I think Kansas City, to be honest with you, could definitely be in trouble right now. I think they're going to get better midway throughout the season here, especially when Rashee Rice comes back, Xavier Worthy comes back. Their offense will definitely be a little more explosive. This is a big week for them this week. Starting 1-3 is a big hole. And they definitely don't look good right now. I mean, meanwhile, Baltimore's defense does not look good at all. One of the worst defenses in the National Football League as of week 3 going into week 4 here. Their offense is pretty explosive. I mean, we know Kansas City plays pretty good against Baltimore. Baltimore has not beat Kansas City in a while. They had that crazy one in week 1 last year where Isaiah Likely's toe was literally like this much out of bounds, or else Baltimore would have ended up winning week 1 that game. I think Kansas City was like 11-0 in one-score games last year, and they kind of don't seem to have that magic as much this year. But I think Kansas City could be in some trouble, especially if they can't win here against the Ravens this weekend. They start off 1-3. Their schedule's really tough. I mean, of course, they play a first-place schedule, and their division's pretty hard. I mean, they're not in some kind of dink and thunk division. I don't know, even trying to think like if the Chiefs were in the NFC South, them and Tampa Bay switched, and they had Atlanta, New Orleans, and Carolina in there. I'd say Kansas City would still easily be winning that division. They could start off 1-3. I'd still take Kansas City. That division's a joke, to be honest with you. So, but their division's not a joke. Geno Smith is not playing good at all right now for the Raiders. He had that really good game against New England, but yeah, after that, he's really kind of stunk up the joint, to be honest with you. He has not played well at all. One of my predictions is I think Las Vegas will be looking to draft a quarterback next year. And starting to look like it's coming to light. Geno Smith looks like maybe his little reign here for the last few years is kind of coming to an end, as he has not been playing well these last few weeks. But yeah, Denver, who is having a slow start right now, but they've been very competitive in these football games. I mean, they're not getting blown out. They should have beat Indianapolis. They had it beat. Spencer Trader missed the field goal. Then we know the leverage call on the center. Ended up having Indianapolis do a re-kick, and they ended up kicking it to win the game. So Denver had the game won, but some stupid penalty with I think it was 0 seconds left on the clock. I was watching it live, and I was just like, wow, that's brutal. Considering how competitive the last 2 seeds are. I mean, all the seeds in the AFC are competitive, but there's going to be a dogfight for that 6 and 7 seed. So, and I better not see any 6-7 comments in my things for that. But yeah, man. I mean, there's going to be a dogfight for those, and every win counts. And that could be a game Denver looks back on and just like, wow. Especially if they manage to miss the playoffs. That's going to be an extremely, it's going to look extremely worse. I'll just put it that way, put it bluntly. But then you have the Chargers right now, who are 3-0 against, all of their wins are against their division. So they already have, they're 3-0, but they already have a competitive advantage in the division. I think the Chargers are going to win the AFC West. I think the Chiefs will get some of their firepower back with Xavier Worthy, with Rashee Rice. But one of the things I'm concerned with Rashee Rice is we're all kind of when this guy comes back, we're just all expecting him to be what he was. And I mean, in fairness, he probably should be. He's still extremely young. You know, he didn't suffer that injury he had last year when he was like 30, 32 years old or something. If he would have, it would have most likely been over. It's hard enough to recover from that when you're older, but he's still an extremely young receiver, so his body will recover from that. But we've seen even as of recently, these guys who get these major injuries and all, sometimes they really struggle coming back. And he's dealing with these legal issues. He hasn't played the game in a long time, and now he has a suspension. Like I just mentioned, the legal issues. Like, is this guy even going to come back the same he was a few years ago? I mean, he didn't play all last year. He isn't going to play almost half the season this year, coming off a big-time injury. I mean, the legal issues, like there's a lot in his head right now. So we have to even kind of just hope this guy even comes back to what he used to be. I'm not saying that he's going to come back and be terrible or anything. I'm just going to assume that he's going to be the same that he was right now, but there is a chance that he's not going to be. What if Rashee Rice comes back and he's not the same guy? And this is the guy that the Chiefs have been relying on now for a couple of years to really be that kind of next piece in their offense that really elevates them again. I mean, they are heavily relying on this guy when he comes back to play. I mean, if they're 3-3 by the time he comes back in week 7 or something like that, that'll be massive for Kansas City. They need to just at least go like 500 by the time he comes back, and just hope he can play how he used to before he got injured. One of the things with Kansas City that I think is hurting them right now is, or it's catching up to them this year, is that they've been kind of band-aiding their issues. And the problem is with that is now their core players are getting old. I mean, Chris Jones is getting old. He's starting to look old. Travis Kelce is obviously looking old out there. He is a shell of himself. Chris Jones still has a little juice left, but he's the tank is starting to kind of empty there for Chris Jones. And the receiving crew, just Hollywood Brown, who is not a number one receiver. He's been playing okay these last couple of weeks, but he doesn't contribute to winning football. Arizona shipped the first round pick out for Hollywood Brown to Baltimore. And how much do the Arizona Cardinals regret that? I mean, he is not worth a first round pick at all. He's playing decent, but Hollywood Brown is not a true wide receiver one. Like, he's a decent 2, maybe on a lot of teams. Definitely like a 3, but he's a borderline 2 receiver for most teams. And I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster, who, and I know Chiefs fans are not going to be happy with me saying this at all. They are very, very defensive over their teams, and I understand. I mean, especially, I'm a Patriots fan. When anyone would criticize the dynasty, I'd be like, what are you talking about? All we do is win. What do you know about winning? All we've been doing is winning. I used to be like that, but the more I look back on it now, the more I'm like, damn, I was kind of blinded by the winning and like realizing that this dynasty could have went further if we stopped band-aiding our problems. If we would have went and just got Brady as receiver. Now, the Patriots did try, and they tried to get Antonio Brown, and of course that didn't work. But it was a while there, man. Especially at the end, Brady started getting pissed off because he was out there throwing at just some bad receivers, and they were clearly getting cheap. And it's not necessarily that the Chiefs are getting cheap. I mean, they invested a ton of money in their offensive line this offseason, which was massive for Pat Mahomes. But Jawan Taylor's kind of having a rough start to the year with all the penalties. It's like he false starts on every single possession. Anytime I watch a Chiefs game, like, it's kind of brutal. But their offensive line is definitely playing better. Better than it was last year. That Josh Simmons they drafted, looking like he's a pretty serviceable tackle back there. He's playing pretty well, so that's good. They needed that. If he would have turned it out to be a complete flop, that would have been a serious issue for the Chiefs. I was saying the other day to a friend that this is the most important all season in Kansas City Chiefs history, at least to this point, because Kansas City's never had a dynasty, and to keep the dynasty alive, this all season is going to be massive for that. So I'd say this all season is going to be pretty important. I think the Chiefs are absolutely still in contention to make the playoffs, but I'm a little worried about them. Definitely coming in, going into week 4 here, as they have the potential to start off 1-3, and so does Baltimore, of course. Kansas City's had Baltimore's number for the last few years or so, for sure, at least within the Pat Mahomes era. They definitely have had Baltimore's number, but this just feels a little different for Kansas City, man. Something feels really off. And I just mentioned, I think it's just the band-aiding their issues. When you have Pat Mahomes, you can do that. And that's what they did with Tom Brady. Is like, it kind of showed that when Tom Brady left, like they tried running what they were doing before with Brady, like kind of trying to patch this and that, and kind of just, yeah, well, we'll focus on this later. Let's just throw a couple guys here and we'll focus more on this group. And um, again, just didn't really work out at all. It kind of shows you how much, like Pat Mahomes and Brady, how many issues they really cover in an organization. And even with them, the issues come out, especially when your talent level goes down. And Kansas City, not necessarily saying that they don't have any talent, because that's not true. They definitely do. They have talent on a lot of levels on the field. I mean, the offensive line is good. Their receivers are not great. I'd say they're borderline decent, to be honest with you. They definitely, I think we all agree they need to upgrade their receiving room. I mean, they definitely need to bank on Xavier Worthy being hurt, dislocating his shoulder, or Rashee Rice. I mean, I guess they kind of knew with Rashee Rice coming into this season that he was going to end up facing some sort of suspension. But yeah, this is extremely important for the Chiefs. This game coming in this offseason, we have Travis Kelce too. One of the things with him is that, one, he's obviously just older. He's an older player. He looks old out there. He's just not the same level of tight end he once was, and that's never going to come back. You know, he may show glimpses of here and there. He'll make a great play. Obviously, I mean, he's still a high-end level player, or not a high-end level player, but in terms of what he used to be, he knows what he's doing out there. There's no doubt about that. But just in terms of his athleticism and the things he used to do, like no matter what, Travis Kelce, Pat Mahomes would throw to him and it would be no one within 10 yards of him. Like he just managed to get open every single time. It was basically a vacuum. Yeah, it didn't ever seem like he dropped the football when it came in his direction at all. He'd break off a ton of yards after the catch. He doesn't do that anymore. I mean, honestly, once he gets it, it's just kind of, he just gets it and kind of goes down, to be honest with you. He's not necessarily the best tight end with yards after the catch anymore, but he's turned into a celebrity. I mean, he's engaged to Taylor Swift, who's a billionaire. So obviously he has no issue with money. Even if he wasn't engaged to Taylor Swift, he has zero issues with money. He's made a gazillion dollars in his career. You know, he's touring with Taylor Swift, constantly paparazzi following him around. Those two, they're constantly in headlines. Starring at Happy Gilmore too. I mean, he's just a full-blown celebrity now. You know, and these football players are celebrities, but they're known for being celebrities for playing football, not other things, not being actors, not being necessarily engaged to one of the world's biggest pop stars on the entire planet. You know, he's just a full-blown celebrity. Like his mind's other places. His podcast with his brother, I think they had the #1 podcast in the nation. At least they kind of flip-flop. I know, like that, and the Joe Rogan podcast and all, and some others. They all flip-flop, but him and Jason Kelce have like a top 5 podcast. I mean, they get a ridiculous amount of viewership. So his mind's all over the place. You know, he obviously cares about playing football. He knows this is his last year. We all know it's his last year. And he's a gazillion other things on his mind. Like Travis Kelce's main focus is not football anymore. And I think we all acknowledge that. I'm sure Andy Reid acknowledges that. And Mahomes acknowledges that. They all know that. We all know it. So that kind of, not only his age comes into the way he plays now, but it's just where his mind is. To be honest with you, I think that just comes into him being more of a full-blown celebrity than just a football player. Kind of comes in to mess with him a little bit, I think. So his mind's not fully there when he's on the field, to be honest with you. You just see it in this play. So, and another one, too, is Andy Reid's age. Not necessarily saying that's feeding into how they're playing, but I'm talking about for the future of this team. Now, if they drop a couple seasons here, for example, this season does turn out to be a collapse. You know, they finish with maybe 8 wins. I mean, that's the floor for the Chiefs. I mean, I think the Chiefs are at least going to finish with maybe like 9 or 10 wins right now. I mean, they have a pretty tough schedule in the way they're playing. I think they're going to have a pretty tough start to the season. As I previously mentioned in this video, they just do not have enough firepower to keep up with these teams right now. Their defense was playing a little shaky to start off the season, but looks like against the Giants this week, they're back in full effect. And as long as that defense can play to the level they've been playing the last few years, the Chiefs will be way more in these games. They're not going to go 11-0 in one-score games. They already haven't. That was a big thing for them last year. So I'd like to see how that plays out. Will they finish in one-score games? Because this team, the Chiefs cannot play from behind right now. Whether or not they can do that the rest of the season, I don't really know. But especially even last season, the Chiefs cannot play from behind. Patrick Mahomes is one of the most clutch quarterbacks in NFL history. So you guys probably hear me say that as like, what are you talking about? Matt, what are you saying right now? You're talking about Pat Mahomes can't play from behind. He's one of the most clutch quarterbacks in NFL history. I get what you're saying, but this team, they get down by 10 or 14 points. Yeah, how are they going to come back from that? I mean, shit against the Chargers the first week, they did creep back in that game, but they ultimately didn't end up winning the game. That's what matters at the end of the day. You can creep back in all you want, but you got to win the game. That's what the Chiefs did last year. They were down, they'd come back and win. And that's why they were 11-0 in one-score games. This team has to play up, whether or not it's by a touchdown or two. Obviously the more the better. But this team has to play with a lead because this defense can hold the other team's offense, to not many points. But the other offense is humming and the defense is not playing great and they start sustaining some injuries. This Chiefs team could be in serious, serious trouble. We'll be talking more about it after the Chiefs and Ravens game on Sunday. But I think there's just some dead wood in that Chiefs organization. Kelsey, not necessarily Chris Jones as much yet, but he's getting there. Again, he shows flashes. He still has some juice, but he's definitely, his age is starting to show a little bit on the football field. So, and the receivers, for one, I think they might have to pivot like off of Juju Smith-Schuster, pivot off of Kelsey, pivot, keeping Hollywood Brown isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think he's been playing pretty good for him the last few weeks. I'm not necessarily move off of everyone. I'm not saying move off of Hollywood in specific, but it's time to move off of some players, kind of start anew and really hit your draft this year. I mentioned previously as well in another video that it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing for the Chiefs to kind of have not a great season. Not necessarily saying that they aren't, but them maybe picking higher in the draft, really getting more of a higher quality kind of player. Maybe someone on the defensive line. Maybe they want to draft a receiver. Maybe another running back. They're still sticking with Pacheco and Hunt. Those two, it's kind of a strange running back. Pacheco's regressed a little bit. There's no doubt about that. He's regressed the last few years. So this team could be in the market for a running back at some point soon as well. Next thing I want to talk about here is I want to talk about the Ravens for a little bit. And I'm not going to talk about the Ravens because I just went on like a full-blown rant on them on Tuesday when I was reacting to the Lions and Ravens game. But I kind of just want to talk about how much they misused Derrick Henry. And I get it with the fumbling situation because that's what a lot of Ravens fans are probably thinking right now. And it's people who watch the Ravens games in general is like, well, he's fumbled at least once every single game they've had this year. They played 3 games, he's fumbled 3 times, one in each game. And I get that. I mean, the fumbling issue is a problem. But at the same time, they completely misuse him. He either breaks off a 50-yard run for a touchdown or some ridiculously long gain, just a 50-yard run without a touchdown. And that's about it. And if he doesn't do that, if he breaks off just a 2-yard run on first down, they don't give him the ball again. It's 2 passing plays with Lamar. And then they pass because they go to bring in Justice Hill. So their scheme is just kind of garbage, to be honest with you. I'm not even trying to dog on the Ravens, but their scheming is, I predicted on my couch what they're going to do. The second they bring in Justice Hill, no matter what, they're passing the ball. And I just wanted to make sure I've seen multiple sports analysts say the same thing. They sit there and say, Rex Ryan said a few days ago as well. And this is, I know a lot of people are kind of iffy on Rex Ryan, but he's a former NFL head coach. And I'm and as a defensive mastermind, even he said, dude, anyone knows what the Ravens are doing on offense. Their offense is ridiculously predictable. And that's the thing is Derrick Henry, if your offense is going to be predictable, run the ball with Derrick Henry and wear him out. And that's what Mike Vrabel did in Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill. They were the number 1 seed with Tennessee, just feeding Derrick Henry. Like feed the man like he's starving or something. You know what I'm saying? That's what they just do not give him the ball enough. And every time they do, there was the statistic last year they had where every time they fed Derrick Henry the ball, what was it, 20 plus times, they won every game. They won every single game they did it. And the games they didn't do it, they had, I think they were like 500 or they may have been under 500. So that's just brutal. The problem with the Ravens is that they go away from what works, and misusing Derrick Henry is like one of the biggest things they've had so far. One of the things is Derrick Henry can't get warmed up either. He should be fumbling the football. I'm not making excuses for him fumbling, sitting there saying, waits to touch the ball in forever. That's why he's fumbling. Like, no, dude, you shouldn't be fumbling the football. He's never had fumbling issues in his career to this point. Now he's having it now that he's getting a little older, I guess. Obviously, he hasn't lost any juice. I mean, he is still out there looking just like running like he's a gazelle or something. It's just a man amongst boys out there, but they just completely misuse him. They don't use him enough. Like, how you use Derrick Henry is you give him the ball on first and second down and you keep doing it. And you keep doing it. And he literally wears down an entire defense, just beating the crap out of him. And eventually it's going to break off those big time runs. He'll break off maybe a couple 3-4 yard runs, maybe a yard run. Then he'll break off 10 yards, 8 yards, 20 yards. And he'll break off that massive run. He does it every single game. He does it every game. He breaks off some big run. He didn't have it against Cleveland, I guess, a couple weeks ago. But he only had like 8 carries that game. And they ended up blowing out the Browns. But that game was close at halftime. I mean, the score made it look a lot worse than it was. I mean, that game honestly did not feel like a blowout. Like, that game was pretty close for a majority of the game. And the Browns seriously collapsed in the fourth quarter. It was pretty bad. So this team just misuses Derrick Henry like no tomorrow. Vrabel, like I previously just mentioned, was a number 1 seed with Tennessee, wearing out, just bulldozing defenses with Derrick Henry. He didn't ask Tannehill to do much because he just fed Derrick Henry the whole time. Now you have 2 different levels of quarterbacks now. Tannehill to Lamar Jackson it's beyond night and day. Like, I don't even know what it is. I mean, it's not even in the same stratosphere of quarterback. But they're asking Lamar to do too much when they don't have to do so. When you have, I mean, arguably a top 10 running back of all time who's still playing like he's in his prime in the backfield right now, who's dealing with a little bit of a fumbling issue, but it comes down to he is not holding the rock enough. I mean, you wonder if he holds it, and a lot of these fumbles come from him. He doesn't touch the ball for extended periods of time. Like, he might get a carry, and then he won't touch it for a while. And then he'll get a couple carries and not touch it for a while. Like, he is just being utterly misused. That's the thing when I mentioned, too, is like, I'll talk with the scheme as well. Is Lamar got sacked, 7 times against Detroit the other night? They're still calling passing plays where receivers are going long. They're going long and trying to make some big play and have Lamar work his magic. They can't do it. You know what you do when you're getting blitzed like that? You throw the short stuff. You have to get the ball out quick. Clearly, the offensive line was getting physically just manhandled by the Detroit Lions that game. They were literally getting manhandled. So, again, the scheming sucks. And if you're getting blitzed, just try giving it to Derrick Henry. I mean, if a hole opens up, there's not going to be a lot of people to stop him back there. I like Brian Branch. He is one of arguably the best, maybe the best safety in the NFL. But one-on-one with Derrick Henry, is he really stopping him if he breaks out there? There's going to be like 4 guys out there on a big-time blitz. Maybe like 4 or 5. And the Lions are just blitzing him all day, and they're still calling long passes down the field. But the scheming just sucks in Baltimore right now. That's part of the whole offensive core, the Todd Monken, who I think is okay. You call a wildcat play with Derrick Henry. Again, talking about misusing him. I don't hate the play call. I like the play. Derrick Henry has 4 passing touchdowns in his career. He's like 7 for 10 passing. I like the play call. I like the wildcat, the passing play. Derrick Henry did it to Baltimore like 5 or 6 years ago in the AFC divisional game. He ended up throwing a touchdown pass against them with Tennessee. I don't hate the play call. I don't mind. I don't think any of us hate the play call. But you have him throw a pass in the right corner of the end zone to Tyson Wallace, and you have DeAndre Hopkins. You even have Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, pretty much almost anyone else on that receiving staff but Tyson Wallace, and you have him throwing a jump pass on one-on-one coverage. I mean, that's the part I don't understand. Like, if you're going to do that, throw it up to D-Hop. He is one of the greatest one-on-one catching threats, even still, of all time. He's made some ridiculous catches for the Baltimore Ravens this year. And you haven't thrown that to Tyson Wallace. I just genuinely do not understand. Again, that's where it comes out in the scheming. That play call was not a bad play call. I'm not arguing with that. I do like the creativity, but the execution just sucks. I don't even know why they tried to throw that to Tyson Wallace in one-on-one coverage. But Yeah, they completely misused Derrick Henry over there, man. I feel for him in a way. They've got to get back to just pounding out the rock. And he literally wears down and we're not talking about a couple defenders, the defensive line. We're talking the entire defense. He just breaks them down. And that's what he's been known for his whole career. And that leads a better pass for Lamar Jackson, more opportunities for him to make big plays, Derrick Henry to break off a big run. Basically, every unit of your offense has a better opportunity to score or make a big play when you feed Derrick Henry the ball a lot. That's true. It takes a lot of pressure off Lamar Jackson as well. I don't know if they're trying to do that because they want Lamar to get his passing touchdowns, his stats. I don't know if their heads are too big because they have an MVP quarterback and they want him to be the main vocal point. Which again, no one's saying he shouldn't be. He could go down as a top 10 quarterback of all time, but make it easier on him. You don't have to make it as hard on him as humanly possible because he's an MVP. It doesn't make any sense. Like, make it easier for him. I'm sure that's what he wants, is his job to be easier. If you Derrick Henry the ball more, his job's easier. I don't care about, he's fumbled a few times, but who cares? You signed this guy. He's one of the greatest running backs ever. And I don't necessarily mean who cares. He needs to stop fumbling the football, but he also does it when he doesn't touch the ball for extended periods of time. Next thing I want to talk about here is the Seahawks and Cardinals Thursday night football game tonight on Amazon Prime. I swear I mentioned this to my girlfriend yesterday, that there's always a Seahawks and Cardinals primetime game. I remember there was one, God, it was probably 10 years ago, maybe more than that at this point. They had the awful game. It was Russell Wilson. I think it was still Carson Palmer. I'm pretty sure it was. It was Carson Palmer in his last year. And the game ended up finishing like 9-6, or maybe ended up in like a 6-6 tie or like a 9-9 tie. They had Chandler Catanzaro. I think that was the kicker's name for the Cardinals. I know it was like Catanzaro, but I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name. It was a little different. And then, I think it was Hauschka for the Seahawks. And they just kept doinking field goals off of the goalpost in overtime. It was like 6-6. And it was legitimately one of the worst games I've ever seen. And anytime I think of a Seahawks and Cardinals game, I think of that game for some reason. I don't know. I mean, this game was like 10 plus years ago. I mean, this game was forever ago. Like I mentioned, Carson Palmer was still playing for the Cardinals. It was a terrible game, but it had a really interesting finish to it. And I think that game did end up finishing in a tie, because I remember Catanzaro went off to the sideline and he just had his head held down, but then Hauschka missed the kick. And mind you, these were both like 25-yard field goals. They were literally like 27-yard field goals. These were chip shots. I'd go out there and kick it and make it. I mean, these were literal chip shots, because these guys could make 100 in a row, and they both missed. And Catanzaro got up off the bench. He's sitting there, and he had like this long hair, and he's sitting there like flowing it back, like with this look on his face, acting like he kind of redeemed himself. And like, dude, if you would have just made your kick, you would have won the game. It didn't necessarily redeem him, but I guess he felt better. I don't know. I just think of that moment every time I think of a Seahawks and Cardinals game. I'm curious to see if you guys still remember that game. And I'll probably not. It was a pretty horrible football game, but it was memorable at the same time. This game tonight is a massive game for Seattle, because I had Seattle ranked in my top 10. And I kind of caught some flack for it. People were like, this team's not ready yet. And I see on Pete Prisco, like NFL Network, like these guys all have their top 10 list, or just every single team in the NFL, their whole power rankings as a whole. They have Seattle around 16-ish, 15. I think that's too low for Seattle. I think Seattle is a really good unit. And I mean, they're 2-1. They didn't necessarily have a great game the first week against the 49ers, but they were right on the brink of winning that game. Brock Purdy came down and had a really good drive and ended up leading them to victory. But, they're literally a minute away from being 3-0 and a really good Brock Purdy throw at the back of the end zone. This team's a lot better than people think, to be honest with you. And I think that works to Seattle's advantage, to be honest with you. Like, it kind of gives me Commanders vibes from last year, even though they're way, way more like respected than the Commanders were coming in the last year, because they were 10-7. No one thinks of Seattle as a bad football team. They just kind of think of them as, meh. I don't really think of Seattle anymore. Seattle's been kind of just in... They haven't been like bad since Russell Wilson left. I mean, Seattle hasn't been a bad football team in a while. They have not been. I mean, it's probably in over a decade. They have not been a bad football team at all for a long time. They've just been very mid, like as of the last hell, I don't know, since let's go since like 2020. They've been extremely mid. Um, they've had some pretty mixed up years in there. Russell Wilson got washed up quick for Seattle. And then you had Geno Smith, who, again, in my opinion, is a very just mid-tier quarterback, and that's what the team played like. They made the playoffs with them 1 year. Last year, they were very close to making it. They finished 10-7, but did not make the playoffs in total. But I think this will be a really good game tonight. It's a big game for Seattle. Arizona, the same. This is a divisional game, and the NFC West is extremely competitive. It is. That division is going to come down to the last couple of games for almost every single team in that division. The Cardinals will probably finish with a pretty decent record. They have pretty okay players, but they feel like the worst team in that division. Seattle is going to come down to the wire for them. San Francisco right now is not healthy. I'm kind of curious to see how long that stretch goes on for San Francisco of being able to really keep pulling out these games with the majority of their backup players in there. It's pretty incredible. Or with Mac Jones, should I say. And the Rams are obviously contenders to win the Super Bowl. They were the Super Bowl defending champs. They were beating them 26-7 last week. Ended up losing the game, but not Super Bowl contenders, playoff contenders. Let's put it that way. So this will be a big game. Whether or not it's going to be a good game, I think it'll be a pretty decent game. I think it could be, I don't necessarily know if this game's going to be a shootout. A Mike McDonald defense. I don't think the game's going to end up turning to be a shootout at all, but I think this game could be pretty sloppy. If I had to take a team to win this game, I'd take Seattle. I am going to take Seattle to win this game on Thursday Night Football tonight, but yeah, I think it'll be a pretty decent game. Two NFC West teams. As I mentioned, I don't know, every time I think of a Seattle and Arizona game, I think of that game from about a decade ago. So if you don't have anything to watch tonight, make sure to tune into that Seahawks and Cardinals game on Thursday Night Football. That'll be a pretty decent game. Sam Darnold proved it on prime time. Let me just say that. They went in and freaking blew out the Saints, which the Seahawks blew out the Saints this last week. Cardinals, it was a one-score affair. So, the Cardinals are 2-1. But who they beat? They beat the Saints, and it was another horrible, horrible football team. It was Carolina. Carolina's not horrible, but Carolina's not great either. So I would definitely take Seattle to win this game. Next game, or next thing I want to talk about is, are the Colts actually, do I actually think they're going to make the playoffs this season? Let me go back to their schedule here real quick. So the Colts right now are surprising everyone, especially me. I mean, I was very critical of the Colts before coming into this season, especially with the whole Anthony Richardson thing. I was like, Daniel Jones, we've seen what he's like throughout his career. How bad do the New York Giants look right now? Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones' career so far are flourishing away from New York and Brian Daboll. So that is not a good look for the Giants whatsoever right now. But so far, the Colts have beaten the Dolphins and the Titans and the Broncos, which, as I mentioned previously in the video, they really should have lost that game. They didn't, so I'm not going to hold it against them. But they lost the game until a penalty, and the game was over. So and then they got a re-kick. But they go against the Rams this week. This is a big test for the Colts. I think the Colts, if they even go in and lose to a game-winning field goal, if they lose, especially if they win the game, I mean, people want to take them a lot more serious. They're going to move up in people's power rankings. There's still not a lot of people's top 10. If they are, they're like number 10. I think I had them like number 6 on mine this week. They're playing really good football right now. As of the moment, they're a borderline top 5 football team. So this is a big test. I mean, if they go out and get smoked by the Rams, they lose like 35-10 or something, and Daniel Jones just kind of looks like he's old school Daniel Jones, a lot of the Colts talk is going to go away fast. You wonder if the momentum of the team is going to get diminished, especially after a demoralizing loss to the Rams if they do. But honestly, the Colts schedule is not that difficult. They play the Raiders, which I think is absolutely winnable. I'd probably take the Colts to win that game. They play the Cardinals. Again, I'd probably take the Colts to win that game. That game's extremely winnable. The Chargers, I would take the Chargers as of this moment, but they don't play them until October 19th, so who knows what can change. The Titans again, the Steelers, the Steelers are not great. The Falcons, the Chiefs, the Texans, the Jags, the Seahawks, 49ers, Jags, and Texans. Their schedule, they do not have a hard schedule. Their schedules actually looks pretty decently easy to this point. There are some hard games thrown in there, but I think this team can absolutely make the playoffs if they keep playing like they are. I mean, to this point, it doesn't look like a fluke. It's still pretty early in the season, but we are getting into the point now where I previously mentioned a while back before the season started, week 1 or so, after I seen the Colts win and not blow out. I was like, you know what, you got to give it a few weeks. By like week 5 or 6, you know what teams are legit, and that we're pushing that point. So, you know, if they're 4-1, they're 5-0, or 6-0, 6-1, 5-1, whatever it is, the Colts will be legit. So usually know by about Thanksgiving when teams are legit. So especially kind of by the end of October as well, you start really getting a feel for what team is what. So and I'll be telling coming up here in a few weeks for the Colts, but the way Daniel Jones is playing, he's playing like an MVP candidate. It looks like Shane Steichen has gotten some out of him. We don't know where it came from. The dude's talented, for one. And Daniel Jones is just known as a great clubhouse guy. He always was in New York. That's why New York offered him that big extension. They made the playoffs once with him, but he was a great clubhouse guy. Teammates loved him. Teammates ranted. Andrew Thomas said something about him. Was it last year or like 2 years ago? Just sitting there, just going on about Daniel Jones. Basically, could have just wrote a whole book about him. He's an extremely likable guy, a good leader, but just not again, we mentioned with New York, just not a very good quarterback. That's the only thing is like he is everything else but being a good quarterback. Well, now he's playing like a good quarterback. So I mean, he's playing looking like he should have Manning on the back of his jersey back there. Put the number 18 and slap Manning on the back, man, and you can really tell the difference right now. I mean, he is balling out. I mean, obviously you can tell the difference, but he's balling out regardless. The team's 3-0. Now, whether or not the Colts can go on to win the Super Bowl, I think there's a lot of hard teams in the AFC right now, even though Baltimore's not playing great. And I think they have some internal issues in the building beyond their players. For sure, players are not playing bad, but I think it just comes from the coaching and the coordinating and the scheming of Baltimore right now, which can be fixed. But I think Baltimore's will be perfectly fine, and they're going to have to deal with that. Maybe Kansas City. Hopefully if they can turn their season around. But right now, Kansas City's we just do not know what's going to happen with them this season right now. And, there's a lot of competition in the AFC. Just put it that way. But with Cincinnati and Joe Burrow being out, they're not going to be in the mix for a playoff spot unless they go out and sign maybe Jameis Winston or something. But even then, I don't know if they would be. But they look a lot better than they do right now. I think maybe they'd win more. They definitely win more games if they did with Jake Browning. Whether or not they'd be a playoff contender is very up in the air. I would go to say to this point the Bengals will not make the playoffs. That frees up a spot for some of these other teams. Miami's not going to be in the mix. The Jets aren't going to be in the mix. The Steelers will be, of course, because that's what they do. But it's kind of the door's open for the Colts. And not even, I'm sitting there talking like a low playoff seed. I mean, this team could easily win their division. Team I'm going to talk about later who's in their division as well, maybe being a playoff contender. I'll kind of get more into them in a little bit, but the Texans stink. I mean, the Texans really are not good. And a lot of talk with C.J. Stroud, like, are we going to give this guy a contract extension? If it was today, I would not give him one. And it's not entirely his fault, but there's moments where it really is his fault. Like, he has bad moments right now. Like, he does not look like a good quarterback. So, no. And the other team, which I'm sure you guys probably know what I'm talking about at this point. I'll talk about being a playoff contender here in a few minutes. But the Colts, definitely some hope, man. There is definitely some hope for them. Right now, their eyes are set on winning this division right now. So as long as they keep on the pace they are, win their divisional games, Colts will be fine. When's the next time they play a divisional opponent? They just played the Titans last week, Rams, Raiders, Cardinals, Chargers. So they don't play another divisional opponent until October 26th. So about a month from today to this point, they play the Titans. So they should be good. I think their division's very weak. I take them to win their division right now. As of this moment, I would. So Colts are kind of in control of their own destiny right now. This team can absolutely make the playoffs and finish the top 4 seed in the NFL. Next thing I want to talk about here briefly is the Cowboys versus Packers Sunday Night Football game coming up this week. The Micah Parsons return. That's what everyone's talking about it as. There is bad blood there. There definitely is. It's not kind of like It's like a few weeks ago, Joe Flacco returned to play Baltimore. There's no bad blood. And you see it at the end of the game, Lamar Jackson was crying on Joe Flacco's shoulder at the end of the game. And Flacco doesn't have any animosity towards Baltimore at all. Didn't end ugly or anything. Micah Parsons, that whole thing ended very ugly. It ended extremely ugly with his agent not talking to Jerry Jones. He clearly didn't want to be there anymore. Constantly talking shit about the Cowboys. And then he ends up getting traded to the Packers. So I think this will end up being a really good game. I think the Packers will win this game as long as they don't play like they did last week. But the Browns defense is head and shoulders above the Cowboys defense. The Cowboys defense is pretty awful, to be honest with you. So I think the Packers offense should really feast on this Cowboys defense, to be completely honest with you. And I think the Cowboys offense is going to have a hard time keeping up with it. They came off not a good performance against Chicago. I mentioned a few days ago, the Cowboys season is going to be a roller coaster. I think they'll be more competitive in this game, and they'll be like, well, how did they not play this against Chicago last week? And they'll just have some games they just completely suck in. And, I think they could be competitive in this Packers game. I don't necessarily think this game's going to be a blowout on Sunday Night Football, but I think the Packers are going to win this game. The primetime games are always different than them playing at like 1 o'clock. So I'm curious to see how Micah Parsons does. Obviously, the cameras, it's going to be all cameras and action and everything on Micah Parsons coming in to this game here. Cameras constantly going to be on him. They're going to be talking about it the whole time. Every time Micah Parsons even gets within I don't even know, 10 yards within Dak Prescott, even though he's going to be within 10 yards. Obviously, they starts on the defensive line, but they're going to be talking about it. They're going to be talking about this all game, the Micah Parsons thing going on. I'd like to see him maybe get a sack against Dak. That'd be pretty interesting. I'd like to see how he celebrates. The camera's going to be panning in on Jerry Jones. Honestly, I bet you everything I have that if Michael Parsons does get a sack, that camera goes right up to Jerry Jones in that box office. It will absolutely do it. I think, and I mentioned this the other day, if the Cowboys ended up keeping Micah Parsons, I don't think it makes much of a difference this season. Their secondary is getting torched. Honestly, I kind of think it works out better for them getting an extra first-round pick. Whether or not it's the 26th overall pick, it's going to be a low pick. The Packers are going to finish with a high record, probably like 12-5-ish, somewhere in that range. And it's going to be a lower pick, but they have to use that pick on a defensive player, whether it's a corner, and you try replacing him with a pass rusher, you try getting a safety, anything. It has to be replaced with defense, and they get 2 opportunities to do so, especially because their pick's going to be in the middle somewhere. This team's going to finish with like 7-8 wins, somewhere around there. The Cowboys are they going to be competitive, but they'll probably pick near the top 10, probably around like 12-ish or something like that, 14 maybe. And I think they should use both their first round picks on defense. Their offense, they got a ton of running back at free agency. Their offense really is not the issue to this point, to be honest with you. It's just their defense is terrible. So I think they got to go very defense heavy in the draft. And I think even with Parsons right now, you'd be cash strapped to no end right now, and your defense would still suck, and you'd have to let go of players. So I'm actually kind of on the other side to where, you know what, use your 2 first-round picks this year on defense and go majority defense in the draft and really just load up, because this team could quickly be back in the mix if they could get their defense back in shape, because it is not good right now. It's like historically bad. I mean, Russell Wilson had almost 500 yards passing a couple weeks ago. Now he's benched. Literally a week later, he's benched. So that tells you all you need to know about that defense. They got a lot of work to do. Packers offense, Packers defense is humming right now. Packers defense was really good last week, but their offense was not good at all. But I'm positive they will bounce back against the Cowboys if the Cowboys keep playing defense like they are. Last thing I would like to talk about here is, are the Jags, are they really contenders or are they pretenders? Contenders, I mean, for like a playoff position, not for a Super Bowl to this point. Let me go to their schedule real quick. They have not necessarily played great. They're 2-1 right now, but these are extremely extremely close games. Like, and this team creates a lot of bad turnovers and a lot of really bad plays. But at the same time, they create turnovers. Like the Jags defense right now looks really, really good, but their offense is pretty shaky right now. Brian Thomas Jr. has regressed really bad, which no one expected at all. Like he does not look good at like whatsoever. He doesn't even look like the same player at all. Maybe it's just going to take him a little bit. He's going to have a nice cold start, but they play against the 49ers this week. Then they play against the Chiefs, the Seahawks, the Rams. The Jags have a tough stretch coming up. And what are they, 2-1 right now? Their next 4 games, the 49ers, even though they have some injuries on their team, Nick Bosa being out now for the year, Kittle, they definitely have some injuries, but they clearly should. They're not a push-around team. Their defense was under Saleh is playing great. Robert Saleh really is a great defensive coordinator. I mean, he really is an amazing defensive coordinator. Props to him. I think one day Robert Saleh will get another chance to head coach. I think people want to look at that Jets tenure and be like, let's give this guy another chance. He will get another chance to head coach somewhere down the line. He's a young guy. Coaches a great defense, a lot of energy, so I'm sure he'll get another chance to head coach. And honestly, I think soon. I'm not saying next year. I think it'll be a few years, but I think Saleh will be back that head coaching cycle soon enough. So they play against the 49ers. They play against the Chiefs. They play against the Seahawks, the Rams. They could be like 2-5 really fast if they flunk these games. These are really difficult games. Even the Chiefs I mentioned a little while ago are not necessarily playing very good football right now. But I'd probably still take them over the Jags as of this moment, to be honest with you, especially in a few weeks. Next Monday, they play against each other, so that game will be here before we know it. And Jags had a tough stretch. Depending on how they do in that stretch, will really tell whether this team's a contender or pretender. Because if they finish 2-5, they got to play the Raiders, the Texans, the divisional game. Texans arguably should have beat them the other week. They didn't, but again, the C.J. Stroud and that offense is just completely out of sync. And then they have the Chargers, Cardinals, Titans, Colts, Jets. Like they have a pretty good stretch there of games that they could go on to win those games. Then they have the Broncos, Colts, and Titans in out the season. So this could be like a very down to the wire finish for the Jaguars. Like this could be very down to the wire. And what they're doing now is really winning these games that they should be winning. They should have beaten the Bengals. That game could very well come back to haunt them. Like this team is, I think, I've had a prediction it's going to finish 9-8. I don't know how well they're going to do in this next stretch of 4 games coming up here. They definitely do have some tough games, but they can finish like 500. They can go 2-2. This next stretch of games would be 4-3, especially because towards the end, at the end of the season, they have a stretch of some pretty easy games. So, and this could go either way for the Jags. I think this next 4-game stretch is going to be very telling because it matters at the end of the season. But when you look back, it's like, dude, if they would have done this earlier in the season, they would be in the playoffs right now. I think this team will finish a game shy. They'll go 9-8, and they'll look pretty good for a stretch of time. But some games are going to go back and on them, a.k.a. the Bengals game. Maybe some games coming up here that they should win. But the Jags are the Jags. They will always find a way to jag a game. So, but they're playing pretty good football right now. Travis Hunter, they showed some clips of him like on Nico Collins and playing defense against the Texans last week. Man, he looked great on defense. I always think they should put him as like a full-time corner and maybe throw him in for some offensive plays. But he really should be playing more corner than he is receiver. He hasn't made that much of a difference at the receiver position, but I get it right now because Brian Thomas Jr. is, as I previously mentioned, has regressed a good bit. I don't know what has happened to him. To be completely honest with you, he does not look good at all. Maybe, again, I mentioned an ice cold start, a slow start. Maybe he goes out and goes for over 100 yards this week, and it's like, yeah, I'm back. I just got off this slow start. But defense is playing well for the Jags. Liam Cohen seems like he's doing all right. Trevor Lawrence, just kind of playing all right as well. He's playing some pretty good football. So, this team's going to have to step up their game coming up here in these next few weeks. They're going to have to be better than playing, Trevor Lawrence is playing all right. Like, no, he needs to play some really good football. Trevor Lawrence has had some bad turnovers these last couple of weeks. So I'm like, dude, what are you throwing? I see it on like red zone and stuff. I'm like, God, what is he throwing? But, Jaguars are right in the middle of contender for a playoff spot and pretender. So we'll have to see what they do with that. These next 4 weeks will be very telling for this Jags team, and whether or not people really think that this team's contending for a playoff spot or not. They got some pretty tough opponents coming up. So that is it for today's video. Just wanted to catch up on some things, talk about some things for a little bit. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Tomorrow we will be here for Slips for Sundays if you're new for the channel. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for some bet slips, some parlays, some of my favorite bets coming in here to this weekend already for NFL football, man. The week flies by, especially here we are. We're creeping up here on the 50th episode of the podcast. What is this? This is episode number 48. Yep, number 48 on the podcast already. My 48th long-form episode. Next week will be my 50th. Hit the big 50 mark. We're halfway to 100 episodes here on the podcast, man. That's pretty incredible. It flies by. I'm having a ton of fun with this. I love it. Love making content for you guys. YouTube shorts, all that, man. I go out of my way for you guys to make sure you have something to watch every single day, constantly daily uploads here on the YouTube channel. So I hope you guys are enjoying the content. If you like today's video, make sure that like button, hit that subscribe button. As I previously mentioned, we're on the road to 100 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. And I will see you guys tomorrow for Sundays, everyone. Take it easy.